Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm your host, and today we are getting into something that honestly affects every single one of you listening.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm your resident expert for today, and I am super excited to break the source material down with you.
Because it's a wild one. So I want to start by having you, the listener, imagine a scenario. Let's say you're starving, right?
We've all been there.
Oh, yeah. So you open up a food delivery app, but you don't even have to tap a single button because the app just instantly knows exactly what you're craving.
It's like it's reading your mind.
Exactly. And 10 minutes later, boom, a hot, juicy burger arrives at your door. It smells like your childhood favorite. You take a bite, and it's absolute perfection.
Sounds pretty good so far.
Right. But then you look at the receipt, and in this tiny, tiny print at the bottom, it says 100% synthetic. Printed by machines, chemically tailored to manipulate your dopamine receptors.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a twist.
You aren't eating actual food. You're eating like a customized illusion that's just designed to make you buy more.
I mean, it tastes incredible, sure, but it offers zero actual nutritional value. And the scary part is, it was designed by a system that has just been quietly mapping your habits and your weak spots for years.
Yes. Now, I want you to swap that synthetic burger for your daily newsfeed.
Or, your research materials or your social media timeline.
Exactly. Because we are consuming synthetic data at an unprecedented scale right now. Today's world is just this massive tidal wave of information, and a huge chunk of it is AI generated.
It is, and it's tailored specifically to our habits to sell us products or, much more dangerously, to sell us ideas.
Which brings us to the actual mission of today's deep dive. We are unpacking some source material that basically offers a masterclass in how to survive this specific era of information overload.
Yeah, and the solution they present, it isn't about, downloading a better spam filter or figuring out a new algorithm.
Right, it's not a tech fix.
No, not at all. The answer is entirely internal. It's about building this highly personalized, knowledge system, as they call it.
And the sources lay out a really specific step-by-step method to build this internal framework.
We do, and it relies on two really foundational steps. The first is identifying your natural inherent strengths.
Okay.
And the second step is taking those exact strengths and using them to dissect your past experiences of overcoming intense struggles.
Wow, okay. But before we get into the actual mechanics of how to build this system, I think we need to establish what happens if you don't.
Oh, absolutely. Because just treating modern data consumption casually, it's incredibly dangerous.
Yet the sources issue a pretty stark warning about relying on externally provided, unverified information. They describe the risk as being led by the nose.
Right, because we're operating in an environment where AI can generate, photorealistic fake images.
Literally indistinguishable from reality.
Exactly, or entirely fabricated historical texts, or even personalized arguments based on your specific psychological profile.
That is terrifying.
It is, and the source material argues that if a piece of knowledge hasn't been personally verified by you, run through your own internal logic and proven feasible in your own life, it isn't actually knowledge.
So what is it?
It's just data. And if you rely on unverified data, you are incredibly vulnerable to manipulation.
Let me challenge that premise a bit, though.
Yeah.
Let's say I ask an AI to summarize a really complex historical event.
Okay.
Or maybe explain a new tax policy to me. And it gives me a perfectly factual, technically accurate summary.
Sure, happens all the time.
Right. There's no hallucination. There's no hidden agenda. Why is that still dangerous if I haven't processed it through my own system? I mean, isn't it just a massive time saver?
Well, the danger there lies in the distinction between accuracy and internalization.
Okay, unpack that for me.
When an AI hands you a perfect, prepackaged summary, you read it, you understand the words, and you feel informed, right?
Yeah, I feel like I learned something.
But you haven't actually engaged with the material. You haven't had to wrestle with the nuances or question the context.
Right.
You haven't figured out how this new fact connects to the hundreds of other things you already know to be true. Basically, you bypass the cognitive friction of learning.
Oh, I see. You skip the mental workout.
Precisely. And because you skip that workout, that information has no roots in your brain. It's just sitting on the surface.
So it's fragile.
Incredibly fragile. So what happens tomorrow when a highly persuasive, completely AI-generated piece of misinformation comes across your feed?
One that completely contradicts yesterday's accurate summary.
Exactly. Because you didn't build an internal anchor for that first fact, you have absolutely nothing to weigh the new fake fact against.
Wow. So I'll just drift toward whichever one is written in a more emotionally resonant tone.
Yeah, whichever one pushes those dopamine receptors. So having an unshakable internal foundation, it isn't just a theoretical exercise for academics.
Right. It's survival.
It's the only way to avoid becoming a passive vessel for whatever synthetic reality is most convenient for an algorithm to feed you.
Which means we have to stop being passive consumers. We have to start cooking our own meals, conceptually speaking. We need to build this personal knowledge system.
Right?
But the part of the source material that really caught me off guard is how this process actually begins. Because when someone says knowledge system, my brain immediately goes to, like, organizing digital notes.
Oh, sure. Or highlighting textbooks or setting up complex spreadsheets.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But the sources don't start by looking outward at tools or apps or books.
Yeah.
They demand you start by looking inward.
They do. The first crucial step to surviving all this external data is actually an intensely introspective audit.
An audit of what, exactly?
Of yourself. You have to identify your dominant traits and strengths. Like, you have to pinpoint the things in your life that you just do effortlessly.
The stuff that feels like breathing.
Exactly. The tasks that don't require friction for you.
So instead of trying to adopt the study habits of, I don't know, a Silicon Valley billionaire, you have to figure out your own baseline first.
Right. You can't just copy-paste someone else's operating system.
It's kind of like finding out whether a piece of land is made of solid granite or soft clay before you try to build a skyscraper on it.
That's a great analogy.
Because you don't lay a foundation on clay the same way you do on granite. If you ignore the raw material of your own brain, the whole building collapses the second a storm hits.
That is a much more structural way to look at it, yeah. We constantly try to force a granite foundation onto clay, or vice versa.
Just because a self-help book told us it was the optimal way to learn.
Exactly. And the sources provide a really fascinating case study that illustrates this audit happening in real time.
Oh yeah, the college interview story. I love this part.
Right. It describes a parent who is helping their teenager prepare for university admission interviews. And this totally mundane task of organizing a college application morphed into this massive journey of self-discovery.
How so? What did they do?
Well, the parent didn't just have the teenager list out their grades and extracurriculars like everyone else does. They actually had the student do a deep chronological audit of their entire life, from childhood all the way through high school.
Hunting for what?
Specifically hunting for where the friction was zero. They were looking for his effortless zones.
And for this specific teenager, those effortless zones were heavily skewed toward human interaction, right?
Yeah, heavily. He was naturally gifted at chatting, socializing, and just connecting with people without any hesitation or distance.
Which is a great life skill.
Oh, absolutely. And academically, this translated perfectly to the humanities. Subjects like history and civics required almost zero effort for him.
Because they're fundamentally stories about people and societies.
Exactly. But identifying these traits is not an exercise in vanity. The teenager wasn't doing this to brag about his social skills.
Right. It wasn't for his resume.
No, this process is about establishing the bedrock of your internal stability. Your dominant traits dictate how your brain inherently prefers to decode the world around you.
Okay, but I need to pause here because this feels like a massive leap to me.
Let's hear it.
Let's say I do this audit, right? And I realize I'm really great at chatting at a dinner party. And I'm a naturally good storyteller.
Okay.
How on earth does knowing I have the gift of gab help me build a rigorous framework to evaluate complex AI-generated data?
That is the pivotal question.
Because we are jumping from a personality quirk to high-level critical thinking, and the mechanism connecting them just isn't obvious to me.
Well, the answer is that strengths alone are totally useless.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you only ever lean on what comes easily to you, you never build a system. You just coast along in your comfort zone.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
To build a framework that's actually capable of filtering reality, your strengths must be forcefully collided with your weaknesses. This is step 2 of the whole process, mining the friction of your past struggles.
Okay, so let's take the teenager from the case study again to see how this works.
Right, so while he was effortlessly cruising through history and civics, He was hitting a massive wall when it came to deep language comprehension.
Like what kind of language comprehension?
Yeah. We're talking about heavy structural linguistics, specifically complex English grammar and ancient Chinese texts. His grades in those areas were just abysmal.
And we have to ask why, right? Because why would someone who is brilliant at socializing and understanding historical narratives completely fail a language class?
Exactly. And the sources make this brilliant connection here. The very trait that made him a great communicator actually created a massive cognitive blind spot.
Which was his ability to just get the gist of a conversation through social intuition.
Yes. When you're chatting at a party, you don't need to understand the precise grammatical architecture of a sentence.
No, you just read the room.
You read the room, you pick up on tone. But when faced with an ancient Chinese poem, you can't just read the room to pass a final exam.
Right, the exam doesn't have a facial expression for you to read.
Exactly. His natural operating system was built for flow, not for mechanics. So when he encountered a subject that required deep structural analysis where getting the gist was literally impossible, his usual tools completely failed him.
And I feel like this is the exact moment where most of us just give up.
Oh, for sure.
We hit a wall where our natural traits aren't enough and we just assume, oh, well, I'm just bad at math or I'm bad at languages.
Or we do something even worse. We try to brute force someone else's method.
Oh, man. Yeah. Like the teenager probably tried rote memorization or flashcards.
Because that's what the textbooks tell you to do, even though his brain isn't wired for mechanical memorization at all.
Which brings us to the synthesis, right?
Yeah.
The core idea of the source material.
Yeah.
The actual secret to building this knowledge system.
Yes. The secret is that you must use your established strength to actively modify and fix your weak areas.
You don't adopt the textbook's learning template.
Never. You bend the problem until it fits your personal traits.
Okay, walk me through how he actually did that, because bending a problem sounds really great in theory, but what does that look like in a high school English class?
Well, he had to step back and reevaluate what language fundamentally is. To a linguist, it might be a set of mechanical rules, but ultimately language is just a vehicle for human communication, right?
Right, and human communication is this teenager's ultimate superpower.
Exactly. So instead of staring at English grammar rules as these abstract, rigid math equations to be memorized, he translated the problem into his native tongue.
Oh, I see.
He started viewing English entirely through the lens of social dynamics.
So he looked at the sentences not as grammar puzzles, but as conversational tools.
Yes. He began analyzing how English conversation styles differed from Chinese conversation styles. He looked at how people actually spoke to each other.
Like how social hierarchy was expressed in English phrasing.
Exactly, and how the flow of a paragraph mirrored the flow of a really good conversation. He figured out that his lack of vocabulary wasn't a mechanical failure.
What was it then?
It was preventing him from having deeper social connections in the text. Once he reframed it that way, everything changed.
That is so smart.
Yeah.
And if we pull this out of the high school context and apply it to a listener's everyday life, the implications are huge.
Huge. Give me an example.
Well, say you're a project manager, right? And you thrive on creating timelines and organizing teams, but you are completely terrified of the technical coding side of your tech company.
Okay, common scenario.
The worst thing you could do is buy a dense programming textbook and try to memorize syntax.
Right, because that's not your strength.
Exactly. You should bend the problem. You look at a software architecture as a project timeline. You map the flow of data the very same way you map the flow of your team's tasks.
Yes. You leverage your verified internal data, your proven project management strengths, to process unverified alien challenges.
It's brilliant.
And it's not just a high school trick. The source material actually explicitly connects this teenager's journey to high-level executive coaching.
Okay, you have to explain that connection, because executive coaching usually involves, like, CEOs dealing with billion-dollar crises, not a kid trying to pass an English test.
It sounds different, but the underlying psychology is completely identical.
Really?
Yeah. When an executive coach is brought in to help a CEO navigate an unprecedented crisis, say, a sudden massive supply chain collapse,
Okay.
the coach does not hand the CEO a generic textbook on supply chain management.
Because they don't have time for that, and it wouldn't work anyway.
Exactly. Instead, the coach forces the executive to audit their past. The coach might say, hey, 3 years ago, you successfully navigated a brutal PR disaster.
Right.
And you didn't do it by understanding public relations. You did it by using your incredible talent for micromanaging logistics to control the flow of information.
So the coach extracts the DNA of the past success.
Yes. The coach then asks, how do we take that exact logistical mindset that saved you in PR and map it onto this new supply chain crisis?
You don't learn a new skill from scratch.
Never. You force the new problem to submit to your established strengths.
Okay, this is where we finally bridge the gap.
Let's do it.
Because we started this deep dive talking about AI, synthetic data, and deepfakes. And we spent the last 10 minutes talking about high school English and CEO coaching.
It seems like a detour, but it's all connected.
Right.
Yeah.
So how does bending a learning problem to fit your personality traits act as a shield against a sophisticated AI trying to manipulate your dopamine receptors?
Connection is the mechanism of critical thinking itself.
How so?
When you blindly adopt someone else's learning method, when you just memorize the flashcards or read the AI summary without questioning it, you're training your brain to passively accept external authority.
Oh, wow. You are practicing compliance.
Exactly. You're building a habit of compliance. But when you do what the teenager did, when you wrestle with a problem, identify your own blind spots, and custom build a bridge to understand it using your own specific quirks, you are training your brain to constantly interrogate reality.
You are building a mental filter.
A completely customized mental filter. The sources refer to this internal reservoir of confidence and capability as bottom gas.
Bottom gas. It sounds a bit odd in English, I'll admit, but the concept is really profound. It's like having a full, heavy tank of oxygen when you're deep-sea diving.
That's a perfect image.
The ocean currents are swirling around you, the pressure is immense, but you are grounded because you have your own self-contained life support system.
Exactly. It's foundational stability. Let's run a hypothetical scenario to show exactly how this works against AI in the real world.
Okay, let's hear it.
Let's say our teenager from the case study is now a 30-year-old adult.
Okay.
He's still highly social, he's deeply invested in human narratives, and he is still fundamentally bad at mechanical math.
Sounds realistic.
Right. So he's scrolling his feed one day and comes across a highly persuasive, completely AI-generated economic report.
Oh.
And the report claims a new policy is going to completely destroy his industry. It's packed with complex synthetic charts and really dense data models.
If he doesn't have his internal knowledge system, he panics.
Yeah, total panic. He looks at the terrifying charts, assumes the external authority is correct because he doesn't understand the math at all, and he just shares the fake article out of pure fear.
He gets led by the nose.
Exactly. But because he has built his bottom gas, because he knows exactly how his specific brain works, he processes this entirely differently.
Okay, what does he do?
He encounters this synthetic data and immediately recognizes his blind spot. He says, okay, I cannot evaluate this math. If I try to fight this on a structural level, I will lose.
So he bends the problem.
He bends the problem.
He leans into his strength, which is human behavior.
Exactly. He ignores the synthetic charts for a moment and asks questions rooted entirely in his expertise. He asks, who generated this report?
What are the human incentives behind publishing this?
Does the social narrative being pushed here align with my verified historical understanding of how societies actually react to economic shifts?
Wow. So by running the data through his custom-built filter, he spots the emotional manipulation hiding behind the fake math.
He completely bypasses the trap by translating the threat into a language he already speaks fluently.
That is incredible. So what this all means for you, the listener, is that your quirks, your seemingly unrelated talents, and specifically your past failures, those are actually the ultimate armor against information overload.
They absolutely are.
The fact that you're terrible at public speaking but incredible at building spreadsheets, or maybe you're bad at logic but hyper-empathetic, these aren't just trivia facts for a personality test.
No, they're not.
They are the actual mechanical components of your customized reality verification machine.
And this highlights exactly why learning is no longer just about accumulating data.
Right, because AI can accumulate, organize, and regurgitate data 1 billion times faster and more accurately than the human brain ever will.
Memorizing facts is just a losing game now. True learning in this era is the continuous, lifelong refinement of this inner compass.
It's about repeatedly seeking out friction.
Yes, throwing your natural strengths at that friction and gradually increasing the certainty you have in your own methods.
And the sources emphasize that this isn't like a weekend project. You don't build your personal knowledge system, dust off your hands, and say, well, I'm immune to deepfakes now.
I wish. No, you are constantly refining it because the friction is never going to stop.
Yeah, the AI models will inevitably become more sophisticated at generating synthetic reality. The deepfakes will become totally flawless.
The targeted articles will become so psychologically precise that they feel like they are literally reading your mind. The external environment is only going to get more chaotic.
Which is terrifying, honestly.
Right.
But it's also incredibly motivating.
It is. The stakes are just too high for intellectual laziness right now. We have to be actively engaged in building this internal bedrock.
And I think the most empowering aspect of this method is that it completely democratizes truth finding.
Oh, 100%. You don't need a PhD in machine learning to survive the AI age.
Right. The teenager in the case study didn't need to become a world-class linguist to pass his English class.
No, he just needed to figure out how his specific quirky brain interacted with the subject matter.
So let's give everyone listening a really concrete summary of the battle plan to take with them today.
Let's do it.
If you want to survive the tidal wave of synthetic data and avoid being led by the nose, you must build a personal knowledge system.
And you do this through 2 mandatory steps.
Step 1. Identify your dominant traits. Audit your life, look at what you do effortlessly, and figure out the raw material your brain uses to process the world.
Right. And step 2, mine the friction of your past struggles.
Connect those past experiences.
Exactly. Pinpoint where you failed, recognize how your natural strengths created those blind spots, and specifically map how you can bend new problems to fit your dominant traits.
When you constantly combine those 2 steps, you construct a custom-built lens for viewing reality. You generate that deep reservoir of internal stability, that bottom gas, which prevents you from being swept away by external narratives.
You basically shift from being a passive consumer of a synthetic burger to an active architect of your own intellectual nutrition.
You no longer just accept the world as it's presented to you. You force it to make sense on your terms.
It's a phenomenal framework.
It really is. But as we wrap up this deep dive, applying this concept actually leaves me with a somewhat dizzying thought. Something for everyone listening to mull over as they go about their day, scrolling through their feeds.
Okay, what's the thought?
Well, if the ultimate defense against fake information, our personal truth filtering system, is built entirely on our highly subjective quirks, our unique talents, and our specific past struggles.
Right.
Does that mean the way you verify reality is fundamentally different from the way the person sitting next to you verifies reality?
Oh, it guarantees.
Think about the magnitude of that. If my truth filter is built on the fact that I am highly social and bad at math, and your truth filter is built on the fact that you are incredibly introverted and great at cold logic.
We are running 2 completely different operating systems to process the exact same world.
Exactly. And if we all have fundamentally different custom filters, evaluating the exact same incoming data, how do we ever agree on what is actually real?
That is the ultimate paradox of personal knowledge. The very thing that saves you from the machine might actually isolate you from each other.
It's a massive question. So the next time you order that perfectly customized meal or you read an article that seems to know exactly what you want to hear, remember to check the receipt. Make sure you aren't just swallowing synthetic data.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep trusting your own friction, keep refining your internal stability, and above all, keep questioning everything.
Thanks so much for listening, everyone.
Catch you next time.